A very good evening. I'm going to talk about update on structure and function in glaucoma diagnosis. Well, whether structure or function has always been an everlasting debate, whether structure can detect early or function can detect early. But we know that in many of our studies like EMGT or OHTS, we've had this issue that only 10% of the or very less percentage of patients we use both or can both structure and function can actually detect the progression. So this is in OHTS also, you can see only 10%, and this is a study done by Weinrib et al. There also 60% on OCT, 30% on perimetry, and only 10% by both. So, and there has been a convention that structural changes definitely precede functional change, and with more sensitive methods like OCT, we do expect structural change to present first. Now, in a scenario like this, where you see a superior notch and you see a field defect like that, or you see both superior inferior RNFL defects and a field defect like that, it's a perfect situation or correlation. But life is not as black and white. We have zones of gray. We definitely come across not very unusually situations like where you can see a RNFL defect, but normal fields, and you resort to structure techniques like OCT and pick it up and start treating. So in these situations, like OCT helps in predicting or detecting pre-perimetric glaucoma. On the other hand, this is another patient where you can see the nerves being with a peripapillary crescent, and you again see a normal field. And when you do OCT, you see a lot of red zones, and actually realize that the nerve size being small, OCT is actually overestimating the damage. So whether to depend on function here or structure here is always a question. In addition to such scenarios, we also do see structure function discordance definitely, because there is a non-linear relationship between structure and function, and agreement depends a lot on the stage of the disease. Like we have early disease where you would see small changes in MD, and advanced glaucoma, we cannot depend much on OCT. And actually, if you look at it, if the methods were to agree perfectly, we would not require both structure and function. We would only have one, and one should suffice. So, but that's not true. So that is why we need to look at both structure and function. I'll be giving an update on structural tests. So I'm not talking much on which is already known. We have a HRT, GDX, OCT, and more commonly being used now OCT, which is used for the structural progression or structural documentation at baseline. And we have graduated from time domain to spectral domain to swept source. And as we go higher, we come across faster acquisition speed and advanced algorithms to check or get the data on OCT. However, what we need to remember that diagnostic accuracy of all three OCTs are almost similar when you come to early or pre-perimetric glaucoma, which is the primary role for OCT to pick up. So any of them should be fine. So we have different machines, but largely what we do in each machine is look at the color-coded thickness maps. We look at the deviation maps. We get those parameters which are based on the clock hours, and we look at the statistical comparisons. And we also get the ONH data, which helps us to detect progression or detect the disease at the baseline. Now, more recently, we have also started looking at ganglion cell complex, which is a nerve fiber layer, ganglion cell layer, and inner plexiform layer. And as we know that most of the RGC synapses in the macula, so scans are largely centered on fovea. Here again, you get thickness map, deviation maps, and significance map. All of us are familiar with these maps in OCT machines, and GCC works more or less similar. So you can see the blue areas or darker areas are where you see the thinning, the black shows more thinning. And with the significance maps, you can detect which area is more abnormal. It also gives us a quantitative evaluation in terms of focal loss volume, which can help us detect progression when we are looking at the quantitative progression. More recently, OCTA is something that is being used in glaucoma, where it's a non-invasive imaging technique where RBC motion itself works as a contrast. So that's how you don't have to give a dye, and you can still delineate vessels. So what changes in glaucoma that you see is loss of superficial vessel density in the peripapillary area, as you see here on the top figure, and also in the macular region, along with loss of peripapillary choriocapillaries. We are yet to have more standardized things with that, but just to give you a brief that how do you scan OCTA regions? There are optic nerve has 3 sections, like a nerve head slab, a radial peripapillary capillary slab, and a choroid slab. Similarly, in macula, you can have a superficial and deep slab so as to look at the vessels. And this is how actually the normal and a focal defect and a diffuse defect looks like. So if you look at this, there is a NFL defect here. So you can see loss of capillaries here, and you can see an abnormal value in the infratemporal region. Similarly, in this, where you have a diffuse defect, you can see the loss all around in that heat map, and can see all the numbers which are depressed as compared to normal. So this also helps us in quantification of the flow density, which tells us about the vasculature in glaucoma. Just to give you an example of how it can be used in a clinical situation, this is one of the very recent patients I think I saw 2-3 weeks back, came to me with an acute attack of angle closure, and we did a PI, reduced the pressure, and then 1 week later we dilated and did the evaluation. And you can see the right eye, she came with an attack, and there was a significant field damage, whereas the left eye was more or less fine. When you do the OCT, the edema is yet to resolve. The NFL edema is still there, so you cannot pick up much on OCT. Rather, you see more of white zones. But when I did a OCTA, you can see the difference in the density of the vessels in the optic nerve, around the optic nerve head, as well as in the macula, the right eye as compared to the left eye. If you look at the heat maps, it is more clear that you can see the loss of vasculature here. So this is one thing that can be used and has a potential future application. We do see progression softwares on optic nerve head and ganglion cell complexes in terms of looking at the thickness map progressions, RNFL profile changes, and actually thickness progression, which can tell you that at each visit how the numbers are changing. You can actually look at the absolute numbers also even in GCC, so that like this is more clear on this, like how in RNFL also you can see a change from baseline to follow up, so that you can actually quantify the progression and plan your treatment accordingly. Now, so definitely OCT helps in detecting anatomical progression using these softwares. To go further in future, which would be more clear in our future talks, but just to give you a small example of what we did with a OCT machine, we took some 150 odd patients and got the data of those patients using the optic nerve, macula, and disc tube scan. And we had to do a little tweaking of the software to get the raw data from the machine. And when we combine these parameters like Zernike and general extreme value function parameters, we could actually see that the area under the curve improves. So sensitivity of picking up could improve rather than what parameters we could get from the OCT directly. So it definitely has more potential, and we can actually do more with the existing imaging techniques as well. So AI definitely would help making more sensitive parameters with the current technology itself. Getting on to the functional assessment in glaucoma, well, we all know perimetry and we have been using it, so I'm not going to go in detail about the routine perimetry. Even glaucoma progression analysis softwares are very commonly used to detect progression, like in a patient where you check the rate of progression being more, and here it is being stable, and that's how we plan our treatments. What is new in functional assessment is a newer program that has come up in Humphrey, that is 24-2C or CETA Faster program, where it is almost reduces the test time by 50% as compared to CETA standard. And advantage is that you can get GPA with other strategies. The central correlations do not, central locations that are extra in this do not correlate well with the ganglion cell loss, and it is yet to be established as good as 24-2. But what largely makes it faster is all these 7 modifications that it uses one case instead of 2, and it skips certain things like no second check for blind points, no false positive and false negative catch trials. So there would be some limitations because we are skipping these steps, but still it's a very useful test. And just to explain what points you get extra, if you look at these blue points, they are detected by 24-2 program, and the red points by the 10-2 programs. And the red and green ones are picked up by 24-2 program as well. Now, what you get extra in 24-2C is these 10 points. And these are that have been defined based on the points which are more susceptible to glaucomatous damage. So it gives you a better idea about the central field, especially in early glaucoma when you're looking at. There have been studies to test this algorithm, and it has been shown that it is quite okay in terms of it gives quite identical results as compared to CETA standard, CETA fast, and CETA faster. And even test retest variabilities are more or less within the range. The advantage, as I was telling you, is that the GPA reports can also take CETA fast, so faster. So you can see there's a GPA program taking CETA standard as well as faster. So advantage being that you don't have to re-baseline. Whether that would be really useful in terms of sensitivity point of view is still a question. Well, now looking at the prediction of visual fields from the structural changes, there have been studies earlier as well, where the 24-2 program along with OCT parameters were taken, and these ganglion cell complex and NFL were co-segmented, and they looked at the 54 sectors which correspond to 24-2 program. And a support vector machine was trained independently to predict the field at that point. So if you look at, there was a prediction that was done with the R values of this, and there is possibility of predicting. So to look at the future, if we have structural data, and if we can use the AI to enable estimation of visual field from the structural data, you can actually improve the perimetry test by customizing the points that would be given to the patient for checking, and actually reduce the test time. So we hope to see so in future, and AI may help us to customize these tests for us further. There are a few slides on virtual reality based perimeters. They are yet to be time tested, I would say, so I will not go much in detail looking at the time. One interesting thing is N-Goggle, which can check VEP in response to visual stimulation, so more objective assessment of the visual function. However, again, only pilot studies available for that. So the limitations being the variability, so we are yet to okay. So this is another iPad-based visual field testing. So again, still we are not okay to go ahead with screening or for any clinical use. So this I will skip the combination test that we have. So what I would say is that we have a lot to see in future with the new developments and combinations of structural and functional tests, which may help us predict progression earlier than what we do now. Thank you. Just a last thing to tell you about the what we need to do. Remember, looking at the technology, is that we need to understand the technique and its strength and limitation when we are advising a test. It is important to build up the positive predictive value of a test before we advise the same. And to simplify a test, one should not compromise on the diagnostic capability of the test.